What's up, guys, and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. Today we're taking a look at the making of my latest song. This is Rocket Powered Horse, an electro house track. So let's start off with the drop. So I'm going to show you the second half in a little bit, but this first half here is pretty darn sparse, and that's actually where a lot of the power comes from. Like, really, you could just solo the lead and the kick, and it would work. Because it's a good kick sample, it's, I think, a good lead, and we'll get into that in a second. But the sparseness is where a lot of the power comes from. It was easier to mix. You can have everything be nice and clear, nice and punchy. And so beyond that, we've got this horn sample, white noise, and this impact right here. And then, of course, over here we bring in kind of a 909 style ride. And let's hop into the second drop real quick, then I'll go into the leads. That adds an octave up version of the lead, same patch. Immediately brings that energy level up, and then this saw lead right here. You saw that. Then beyond that, we've got a clap. Added an offbeat hi-hat. This kind of crowd clap effect. And then I'll go into the rest of this in a second. So let's look at the lead here. This is self-made in Serum, and the main sound comes from the wavetable and the FM synthesis. So this is a built-in wavetable, and it is being FM'd by a saw, and the amount of FM is being modulated. And this is on like an envelope setting. I also got some noise. Thicken it up just a little bit. And then one of the big kind of parts of the sound is the portamento, like this right here. Let me solo that. You can hear even when it's not playing one note immediately after, if there's a gap between notes, it still kind of does that little pitch bend. Like that. And that contributes a lot to the sound and that kind of Wild West cowboy feel of it. And then we toggle on some effects. We've got Dimension Expander. You can hear how that adds some grit to it. Reverb and delay. A little more reverb. And some EQ. Getting rid of some of that low end and boosting this a bit to make it work better in the mix. And a bit of high end cut. And of course, as always, LFO tool. And that's one of the reasons the arrangement needed to be so sparse, because this lead is so huge that if you were to stack on a bunch of elements, it would get really muddy and really difficult to mix in kind of this undefined blech. And so to have it be clear and punchy, you just have a couple of elements. So that is why this works. Let's jump into the breakdown and the build. I want to go into that real quick. So we've got a bunch of high-cut automation going on these chords. Oh, first of all, let's go into the transition between the drop and the breakdown. Basically, what I did here was I did a common effect that people use on vocals, and I've taken this and used it on synths. I soaked the main synth elements in reverb, played only the first chord, bounced that out, and then reversed it. So you end up with the chord, and then I put some more reverb on top of that even. and then also with the pluck. So together you get this nice swell into the chords, so you don't just leave this bit of empty space right in this area. You actually have something to bring the chords in. So, and so this pluck is just this right here. Got some chords. It's your main element. And of course, over time, I have the high cut filter automated to lift. And by the time this is lifted all the way, the lead comes in. I also have some high cut automation on this. So something's always changing, something's always kind of bringing itself in and becoming kind of more present. And as this lead's coming in, I also have these saw chords coming in. So that and the lead are kind of coming in at the same time. And by the time those are all the way in, we introduce your full kind of rhythmic section. And I also waited for the filter on the main chord element to lift completely, and for the lead to come in. So you have the lead come in and that bass come in at the same time, so it creates this kind of nice moment where it's like, oh, all that stuff came in. So for the chord section of the breakdown, I have just this sine-based element. Somewhere in between a sine and a square on that wavetable. So mostly just low end and a little bit of grit. And for here, that carries over. But I also added this little bass right here, this kind of gritty bass. So all together. Little impact that I reversed to bring us into the section with the kick. And the kick is actually the same kick as the drop kick. I just said the word kick a lot. Except I've got LFO tool on here cutting it off. So you only get that transient. So I can use the same kick, create some consistency, which is really nice. And because I'm too lazy to automate LFO tool or add a compressor that's sidechained or anything, I went ahead and just took off all the mastering, bounced all this out, and then re-imported it and stuck LFO tool on it. And then I put all the mastering back on the master channel so that everything is going through the master and it all sounds consistent. And then for the build-up, I used a bunch of repetition and some automation to kind of transition it back into the elements of the drop, so it is smooth, so it feels like it all belongs together. And also have some volume automation to take that down so it becomes less and less obvious that it's even there. Just kind of slowly take it out. And for the pitch rise, I actually just went into Serum and set it to go up an octave if you did the pitch bend. So, and then just automated the pitch bend to be really slow, to go up an octave when I wanted to. So with doing it this way, you don't get a lot of those artifacts that you get from automating pitch in like a pitch plugin. Then we've got the saw, playing that one chord over and over, which I then filter out. Until there's almost nothing. Then the delay pluck comes back. And then I have the sub bass. Except I filter it out. So you get that low end that you're used to hearing here, and that carries over, but then we lose it to make room for the kick to come back in So you pull a lot of low end out in this general section, so when the low end comes back here, it kicks you in the face. So all this time, all the elements that you're used to hearing from this breakdown are slowly kind of getting filtered out, going away, and they're repetitive. They're playing that one chord or that one note so that the drop lead can kind of just fit on top of that and not clash with anything. And then these go away, this guy comes in, and I've got this kind of build element here. Like that. And finally, the drop lead. Filter down to absolutely nothing. And once again, you got repetition here. So that doesn't kind of... I mean, we've already heard the drop lead at this point, but I did the exact same thing in the first build, excuse me. And so it teases it. It doesn't give it away all at once. It just repeats itself. Accidentally boosted something here until finally gives kind of that little hook, and it gets you into the drop. And then I have a little pitch fall at the end here. And finally, let's look at this other drop section. A lot of the same elements, except I've added two more elements. These right here. So this is just a snare. I actually chopped this out of a build loop of like a building snare. I chopped that out and used it here. This guy here, which is nice and punchy. So you layer the two. And honestly, the snare sounds kind of crappy on its own, but then you layer it with the kick. The way everything kind of lines up ends up sounding really nice. So, and then once again, pitch fall on the lead. And I also did this in the intro, except I used a bunch of reverb and delay, so you end up with... which is fun. And then finally on this bass part, this is a few self-made presets and then a few presets from Splice. So this guy right here. This guy right here. And I believe I've tweaked all these in some way as well. It's kind of where your transient's coming from right there. Or punch. If you've seen Hot Fuzz, you'll get this reference. So you layer them all together. So this guy is really where most of the sound comes from, and these are kind of add-ons just to increase the kind of the punch and give it a bit of bite, and you end up with... And then same as the lead in the build, I have these builds just go up one octave using the pitch bend. So and I think that is everything I wanted to cover. So that is it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that and found it helpful for your own productions. I will be back with a new song in a week. And until then, I'll see you guys next time. Peace. So this is a built-in wavetable. So this is a